Hey everybody, Stu Smith here going live. Hope you guys are well. Today it is Tuesday, so we'll tell a little story, take some questions, and show some CSS videos for uh, for you guys to check out to see how I critique them. Once again, I have a method, not the only method. The beauty of the CSS is that it is a stroke with many options to and still be a legal choice to do it. So I'll show a couple of different options for you, and we can discuss those as we see fit. But title of this one is How to Train After SOAS. If you're not familiar with what SOAS is, it is SEAL Officer Assessment and Selection. It is done in the summers. Um, so midshipmen from the Naval Academy, ROTC, civilians from OCS, and lateral transfers from the fleet, whether they are enlisted wanting to be officers or they are officers lateral transferring into the SEAL community. That's how it's done. Everybody goes into that, and it's one big pot of officer candidates, and they go through three different blocks of selections, and at the end of the selections, they got to wait a couple of months till they find out the answer. Usually, that's an October, November moment when you just discover that you are either going back to buds as an officer or you are not. And what a lot of people do between that time is they use SOAS as a learning experience. Because here's the beauty of it. It's a 1 week taste of what first phase is going to be like. So, with that, you're going to have assessments done on you and self assessments, like how you felt when you were running 4 miles and swimming with fins and doing treads and pool skills. How you felt under the boat and the log and rucking. All of those, you should get a pretty good understanding where you ranked in that crowd. Usually it's about 60 to 70 people every class, so about 210 people go, roughly 210 people go every year, and um, they will only select a third of that. So usually 65 to 70 is about the number at the end of the year that will go to buds every year. So yes, that's your chances of getting two buds as an officer. Pretty much one third, even though there's a whole lot of people that didn't get selected to even go to SOAS. That is a process as well. The big question comes in, what do I do afterwards? Well, my advice is this. If you discovered a weakness, you need to focus on that weakness. So it usually tends to go opposite of your athletic history and your preparation time, focusing on that weakness. So if you're a strength and power athlete, you probably had a harder time with the runs and the swims and the higher repetition events. Probably didn't feel too bad under a boat and a log because you have a natural, strong, durable body. Um, that's typical. If you're an endurance athlete, you probably crushed the run, ruck, swims. Probably did okay with the high rep calisthenic stuff. Might not have done well on the pull ups or the weighted pull ups if they even test those anymore. Um, but you may have just crushed all the cardio events. Well, my advice would be, if you felt like you were getting crushed under the boats and the logs and the rucks, probably need to get in the weight room and start lifting and get a little stronger, get a little more durable. Use that time wisely, because you're going to find out in November. You could ship out as early as November. We've had guys, get selected and shipped out before Thanksgiving. And we also had guys ship out in the following year as well. So, didn't leave until April or May. So you have some time to really focus on those weaknesses and be a little more bud specific as well. So my advice would be do a cycle where you focus on your strength and power if you need it, maintain your cows and cardio, or you focus on your cows and cardio and maintain some strength with a little block periodization model. Then, if you got another 12 weeks before you go, do something a little more bud specific. Something like the phase 2 and 3 Navy SEAL workout, and even in the subtitle, getting through selection, prep for specific events. That's where a lot of people go wrong. They don't do 4-mile timed runs. They don't even swim with fins ever. We in this program and our local program, we swim with fins every leg day. That's just how it goes. If you want to get good at it, a couple days a week, you need to be swimming with fins. If you're an Army guy, you should be rucking on those leg days. So, anyway, that's how I usually answer that question. We've had a few guys, especially if you went early, like back in June, now you got an extra 2 months to kind of prepare while other guys are going through SOAS. They've done like half Ironman triathlons, because they knew they needed to work on their cardio more. Maybe not, a high mileage a week runner. So 2/3 of their cardio is non-impact cardio, running, biking, and swimming. That's an awesome way to help yourself transition better into that endurance athlete model, especially if you come from a strength background and you did a lot of lifting growing up. The flip side happens too for people that need to lift and get a little more strong. They get in the weight room and do that. So I don't want to beat this one up too much. It's not that difficult of an answer. Just don't ignore weaknesses is the bottom line, because they will be exposed again. If they were exposed at SOAS, I promise you, they will be exposed at BUDS within the first day or two. All right, so I don't have any questions over here on Instagram. I do have questions popping up over here on YouTube, so let's get to them. Hey, Stu, what are you making of the changes coming in the AFSOC pipeline? How would you alter the way you train? They're saying they're making it a land-based selection process. So here's the deal. If you go listen to the One's Ready podcast, you're going to get a lot more information than from me. I mean, to be honest with you, that's where I get my Air Force special warfare information, because those guys lived it, they do it, and they got all the details and the ends. They know people in the pipeline that are instructors. They get some good detail. I mean, I get the same thing from the Bud side. I got a couple of guys that are in the pipeline at Air Force. They feed us some information as well. But from what I have heard, the changes are stopped. They are discussing changes, but the way the military works, if there's changes coming, even though Air Force Special Warfare is a very important group of the Air Force, guess what? There's somebody higher than Air Force Special Warfare that's in charge of all the Air Force. And that guy was like, whoa, why are you making all these changes? We need to discuss them. And so another layer of the chain of command is now getting involved in this, and it's the way it should be. That's the way it works. There's some changes coming around in the Navy Special Warfare officer selection pipeline as well that are being discussed right now. With especially at the Naval Academy with their selection process. So changes happen. Don't be dramatic about it. Just understand what the new standard is and train for that standard. That's what you do. If there's less swimming in it, I would focus more on land. But I wouldn't blow off the swimming, especially if you're going to be a PJ or CCT where swimming and diving is part of your future. You want to be well versed in your training um, for pool skills, water conditioning, swimming conditioning, and just regular water confidence because it's going to be tested at some point. Might not be tested up front; it'll be tested in the back. They're from what it sounds like, they want to base it a little more. What's a good way to phrase this? From what I understand, it it will look more like an army, um, like Green Beret training process where there are groups of Army Special Forces that will go through all their training. They become Green Berets, and then there's also a group that will continue on and go to Army Dive School. Not everybody has to do that. People who want to do that will do that. And it depends on the jobs as well, how they use those platforms for missions, and do they go and help teach some of that in foreign internal defense missions? That's a capability Army guys need to know as well. So it just kind of depends. It's what it sounds like they're doing, which I don't have a problem with. Selection's hard. Regardless if it's land or water. I will say water is very tough. It makes selections twice as hard, maybe even 3 times as hard, because not everybody's comfortable in the water, and it gets tested for sure. So just be patient with that one. They're going to come down with some details on that one, I'm sure. But if you really want the up to date stuff, go to One's Ready. They'll set you straight. How older candidates fare in SOAS? Can experience lend credibility in the application process for the best older SOAS candidates you've seen? What are they like? Well, I tell you what, we've had a couple of them. High 20s, 28, 29, get there. Variety of backgrounds, from multiple degrees, jobs, some married, some with kids. There's a certain level of experience and maturity that comes with that. That is, and some of those experiences are just completely different from your average 22-year-old college graduate. So, yeah, I've seen some with multiple languages, entrepreneurs that are millionaires. I mean, it's highly successful people um, get into that program and make it fine. But I've also seen guys that had a great college life, you know, maybe a substitute teacher for a couple of years and trained hard and got through it too. So it's all levels, man. There's no real specific type. I mean, just you putting out physically and then doing well in the interviews. So older candidates do fine. Let's see. Is it true officers are getting to attend advanced schools like sniper and breacher? That has changed as of late. I'm not 100% sure of that. I mean, I've known officers who've gone through those schools as well. Sometimes there's just space available for them and they get lucky and get to go. I mean, one of my classmates from the academy went through sniper school, and this was back in the 90s. So it can happen. Advice for SFAS training. Yeah, all the Army stuff. Make sure you can crush the CFT. Well, used to be the CFT, now it's the AFT. And make sure you are running and rucking and doing some lifting and carrying things and calisthenics. There's systems and programs that will prepare you for that. So my advice is get on one of those systems and don't just make up your own training that you think is going to prepare you. Unless you have some really good like coaches. Hey Stu, I'm a PA and there's no flat terrain. Oh, I'm in PA. Okay. No flat terrain around me. When I do the 1.5 mile test, should I go to the track or just run the hills? I would, if you're taking a test, I would run the track. Definitely. Because, I mean, be thankful you have hills because those make the legs really strong. So keep running your hills and test on the track. That's the way I do it. I'm on your phase 1 PST program. That's a good one, especially if you want to crush that Navy PST. That one will do it. Does fluency in specific languages give you more leverage than others, being bilingual in Russian English versus English Spanish? No. I mean, you still got to get through Spec Ops selection, and they don't care if you speak 10 languages. They want to see if you're physically and mentally tough enough to get through those courses. Now, if you're going through the officer program and you have multiple languages on your resume, yeah, could that be part of what gets your foot in the door? Sure. I mean, I've seen people with big degrees, average degrees, no languages, bunch of languages. There is a spectrum of people who get selected for those. Is one better than the other? You know, I don't know. I think everybody kind of has this system, or I should say, they have a history that makes them stand out in some fashion, whether that is socially and you're just really good with people and can communicate well, or it's academically, you're smart as hell and you're tough physically. I think the common denominator is you got to be tough physically, and you still got to be good to work with people and be a team player and understand dynamics of a team. But you also need to be smart. How smart is that? That varies as well. So there's really no one answer for that selection process. I've seen the number one guy get selected, and I've seen the 900th ranking guy out of 1,000 get selected, at the Naval Academy. When preparing for SOAS, what are some numbers that guys should aim for, such as MPW? Miles per week. Okay, gotcha. Timed runs, lift numbers that guys should aim for. Keep in mind. Well, one, you got to remember, SOAS is just 1 week. You don't need to be running 50, 60 miles to get through 1 week of training. So get yourself up to 20 to 30 miles a week, but fast, because you're not going to do anything that's crazy mileage out there. Yeah, you'll be on your feet all day, but that's not the same. You're going to have 4 mile timed runs. I think this last one they had a 5 mile timed run instead of a 4 mile timed run. There's usually a ruck involved, and it's a fairly long ruck over an hour. You got a 1 mile swim with fins. You got your PST numbers. They just need to be solid. Sub 7 minute mile pace, I would say, is a minimum for 4 to 5 mile timed runs. So you're flirting with between 6 and 7 minute mile pace for those timed run events. For 1.5 miles, you want to be sub 6 on that one. If you're 9:20, 9:30, it's not going to be a killer thing for you. Just know that there's people going to be competing for you that are running 8:20s and a whole minute faster. Does that matter in the big picture? Not so much, but it matters when they're cutting hairs, when they're trying to figure out, all right, this guy and this guy, same background, same everything. They're solid dudes. How are we cutting hairs on this one? Well, this guy runs better. I mean, sometimes it comes down to that type of stuff. Sometimes they take the slower guy. Who knows? Um, so anyway, I have a sheet that is a really good assessment tool for you. In fact, I'll share it with you. If you look up physical assessment tool to get to and through selection, it's an article that gives you all the scores of people who have what they were doing before they left and made it through. So it's kind of like my average of those scores that you need. And just read that article. There's dozens of different lifts and timed events and workouts even that you should be familiar with before you go and try to reach some of these standards that I set in there. Through your training programs, can you use different paces for the CSS or should you stick to one? It's up to you. When would you use a slower pace if so? I mean, I try to build everybody up to a yard per second pace. Now, there's some people that crush that and do instead of 50 yards in 50 seconds or 500 yards in 500 seconds, which is an 820, they're flirting with 730, which is 45 seconds for 50 yards. So it's all about pacing. It's up to you how fast and slow you want to go. Sometimes you want to work out a little bit harder, go a little bit faster. But my advice for everybody is to try to nail down that yard per second pace for the PST and a yard per second pace for swimming with fins, because that's going to get you, a 500 yard swim's 820. So let's just average it out. We'll say 8 minutes. Okay. Roughly. It's just easier for math. And it's get plus or minus a minute. Okay. So 500 yards with fins, 8 minutes. 1,000 yards, 16 minutes. 2,000 yards, 32 minutes, plus another minute, right? 4,000 yards, which is what you will be doing every week at Bud's with a pair of fins, a wetsuit, a life jacket, inflatable, in the ocean, mile down and a mile back every week. And that time, if you can do a mile in 32, you can do 2 miles in 64. If you build up to that, that's a really good time. And even if you're not swimming straight and you get a 70 minutes, that's still 15 minutes under the minimum standard in first phase. Every phase gets 5 minutes faster. So if you can go there in a 75 minutes, you're going to get better at it every week and start figuring out strategies to get into the 60s, even if you're in the 70s. So that's what we try to do with swimming. And you want to finish that swim and have some time, 10-15 minutes before other people fail, because here's what happens. You get out of the water 10 or 15 minutes before the last guy, you're already dry, sitting at the lockers, putting on your clothes for the next event while you're eating an apple, hydrating, and getting ready for the next event. And then they come straggling across the finish line, and let's say they're the last ones and they didn't meet the standard, then they get hammered. They're rolling around in the sand, doing fireman carries with their wetsuit, bear crawling, doing all kinds of extra buds activities. And you're ready for the next event, ready to go. So then they come over and you got to help them get ready, because you're going to be late for the next event if they're not getting around. So it's all teamwork. Yep. That's the way it works. Be a good player. All right, let's see what else we got over here. Looks like a couple questions over here on Instagram. Hey, Stu, any tips for improving lung capacity when you're swimming? Land athlete here. My swimming has improved a lot. For example, I have a tough time doing the pull out for the full 500-yard swim. Well, there's an article I wrote called, what is it? You guys remember? It's called dude, comma, you're not in swimming shape. That's all that is. And you obviously know that with the question you asked, but it is written for you, the person who can't handle the pullouts every time. Here's one thing to consider: don't worry about the pullouts, right? And just do the whole swim without them and see how you do. One, you get an extra breath per length. I want you to check out this article. I'm just going to put it over here in the Instagram. It's called, like I said, dude, you're not in swimming shape. And it gives you a workout to do. It's called the 50-50. Classic workout. I promise you, if you're swimming 10 minutes, 9:30, 10 minutes, you can be 8 flat in less than a month. If you do that 50-50 workout 4 to 5 times a week. I'm telling you, it works. Seen it happen. In fact, we had a dude that was swimming 10 minutes. We fine tuned his technique a little bit with some critiques. And then 3 weeks later, he was swimming 8:15, 8:20. Easy day. Can I wrestle in college full time and do PST prep program side by side, or is this a program meant to be done solo? Well, that's something I doubt you could do. Wrestling is one of those sports that it will kick your butt. Either you're trying to lose weight and got no energy because you can't eat, or you're just working your ass off trying to be a good wrestler, which is exhausting. And my advice would be this: in the season, maybe in the your wrestling workout with something in the pool just to kind of cool down from that wrestling workout. Just soak in the pool, do some treading, do some pool skills, do some technique on the CSS for a couple hundred yards. Just work on technique and skills. Don't work on swimming conditioning, anything like that. That's how you would do it. And a lot of the things you're going to do in wrestling are going to be very helpful with things like calisthenics and things like running. So you kind of have that wrestling ability to help you handle 2/3 of what you're worried about. The only thing you really wrestling doesn't help you with is swimming. And I always say this, if you show me a wrestler who can swim, I show you a unicorn and someone who's going to do really well at buds. But you got to learn how to swim. So I would focus on technique during the wrestling season in the pool only, not conditioning. Don't get too tired. It's just cool down type of mentality, focusing on technique. And then during the off season, that's when you can focus on more specific PST prep. So what I would do. That's big. Finish decom before the failures even finish. Yeah, man. That's the best. That is like one of my favorite things to do at Buds. I think I just remember it so much being, whew, man, that was worth putting in all those times swimming and getting good at swimming to be able to do this right here. And I just have my locker filled with snacks, peanut butter, honey, apples, baby carrots, just whatever I wanted to munch on, Gatorade, just chowed down, had some snacks before the next event. That was really helpful. Let's see. Ashraf says, Coach, is it normal to lose some running stamina once starting on your program? After 2.5 weeks, I can tell my running stamina, at least mentally, has gone down. Huh. Well, 2.5 weeks isn't going to crush your running unless you're just not running. But I will say this, I know the workouts you're doing, and you're doing some, lifting, you're doing some calisthenics, you're adding a lot to your training day that will make running challenging. Now, if you want to shift something, here's the way you do it, and you're worried about your running, run first, then go lift and do your calisthenics. That's how you're going to do it. And because a lot of these workouts I have set up is you're resting from squats and lunges and things like that by running. Yeah, your legs are going to be tired. It's not a mental thing, it's a physical thing. So if you really want to test it out, run first, lift and do calisthenics second. All right, let's see what we got here. I think I have some videos I saved, but I may not have enough of them to show you guys. You know what? I think I showed these last week, but maybe I didn't. All right, I'm going to show these anyway. Because what I sent myself this morning did not go through. So that was that kind of sucks. This is that's a really good double arm pull that's about to happen. So here you go. We got to kick off the wall. Boom. All right. Really good streamline. And look at this double arm pull. He is like reaching out there, grabbing water. He's about to bend those elbows and boom. Come up. Transition. Yeah, that's nice. Top arm, bottom arm, kick. Hold the glide. Yeah, I got nothing. This is smooth. I like this. Top arm, bottom arm, kick. Hold that glide. Good turnaround. Good double arm pull. If you like doing the double arm pull, do it. You don't have to. He obviously is good at it, and he's good at swimming. And notice this CSS glide there. So straight. So good. I really like that. There was one, I'm hoping I put it up online, but some reason, let me see, yeah, they didn't come through. All right, so I think I might have posted one of these on my TikTok or my, so I've been doing these little 7-second videos that just show like 2 rounds of the CSS. So check this out. Top arm, bottom arm, kick, hold the glide. Top, bottom, hold the glide. Top, bottom arm, breathe, kick and glide. Top arm, bottom arm, kick and glide. Only thing I'm looking at here is he does have a really big bottom arm pull. He could shorten that up a little bit if he wanted to, but he's got a really good kick, a tight streamline. He's swimming straight. Probably could do a little bit better with the freestyle catch, like try to get that arm bent up above him. Yeah, this is smooth. But anyway, you see how I've been doing these. Let me see if I can find another one I did. I think I did 2 of these last few days. Might be on my Instagram. If you guys haven't gone over here to the Instagram page, oh, here it is. This is kind of funny. So, once again, just a really quick way to teach the CSS because this is how it looks. Top arm, bottom arm, kick and glide. Top arm, bottom arm, kick and glide. Or pull, breathe, kick and glide. Pull, breathe, kick and glide. So I've been doing these little 7-second replays or 8-second replays to just kind of show the stroke. So now you don't have to sit through, a whole length of getting it perfect. So anyway, check those out. Check these little things out. I got hundreds of videos on Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok. You guys can definitely constantly critiquing CSS videos, whether I post them or not. I'm sending them by email, so you can send them to me by email. You can share them on your social media and send me the link, and I'll comment on your social media about what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong. So it's up to you how you want to send me those. And if you tell me you don't want me to post it up on my site, I won't. So, sir, I've been running for 3 months and huge improvement. That's typical. But suddenly my legs couldn't maintain the workouts, and now I'm back to where I started. Sound like you just need some recovery. So probably what has happened is you're just doing too much, and you're lucky that it just showed up as fatigue and not as an injury. 9 times out of 10, you'll see fatigue first, and then you'll start seeing injury. And it's little things like knee tendonitis, and it hurts to walk downstairs, or shin splints, or plantar fasciitis when you wake up in the morning, you can't put your heel on the floor, and you got to walk on your tiptoes. Those are fairly typical. When it goes really bad, and if you were to say push through this and keep on running, um, you got to understand when you start running for 3 months. I am curious what your mileage per week is now. What you started at 0, right? Before you ran, I'm assuming you did 0 miles. I'm assuming could maybe you ran 10 miles a week and now you really started a run program. I don't know. But if you started at 0 and now 3 months later, you have progressed into a ridiculous progression. Um, that's another way to, one, get hurt, and two, see experience fatigue because you're just not conditioned for that volume yet. And usually the logical progression is if you run 0, start off with like 5 miles a week. And that's like 1 mile a day. And this is easy, I know, but it's very logical if you want to not be fatigued and not be injured. And then you progress 10 to 15% each week, for 3 months. You do the math on that, you could probably build yourself up to mid 20s, 30 miles a week in 12 weeks, starting at 5. So, try that. Pull back. My advice is just do a deload week and non-impact cardio the whole week. Stretch, foam roll, no leg PT, no leg calisthenics, no leg weights, and just recover for a week. You can still do upper body stuff, but just lay off the legs and replace any leg activity with mobility days. My name is Phoenix. Thanks, Phoenix. I am 17, starting to work towards a PJ pipeline. Do you have any recommendations for functional exercises to work on? Yeah, all of them. I mean, you got to, one, focus on the IFT, right? The IFT is the initial fitness test. It's very similar to the Navy PST, same events, just different order. So you need to master that, but it needs to go way beyond that. You need to understand pool skills. You need to understand, you need to build some durability for load bearing activities, from rucking to carrying equipment. All of that is in that program. So take your time. Don't join just because you turned 18. Actually, join when you're ready. Not just ready to leave home, but ready to crush this test and ready to handle all the pool skills and ready to, ruck and run for miles and, build your progressions up for that. Don't just join because you're 18. Because chances are, if you're on that timeline, you may not be ready. There's a reason why these programs have high attrition rates. Is usually is because a 17-year-old or 18-year-old think they're ready to go serve, and they probably haven't even finished growing yet. And if you're still excited and talking about your prom, you're probably not in that level of maturity that you need to be to go do this job, because it's not a boy's job, right? It's grown ass man. You're going to show up there and there's going to be 25-year-olds who played D1 college sports, you know, got a wife and kid, and, you know, you still got pictures of your prom on their Instagram. Sorry, just a little rant. Just seeing a lot of failures for teenagers, and it's completely avoidable. How can you do the transitions when swimming at a public pool? No easy access to the sea. Not sure what you're asking. What transitions? I mean, I'm not understanding what you're saying. Ask better questions. Training for Coast Guard, ME, Maritime Enforcement, step below MSRT. Any programs you'd recommend for training for that? Heard ME is pretty rigorous and has water stuff like drown proofing. I don't know, be honest with you. I'm not sure how that process goes, but you can't go wrong with tests that look like your test. I know there's a swim, there's pull up, push up, sit ups, and a run. That's what this is. I know there's, land activities, there's running. Not sure about log PT and all those things. So if you get some more details, send me some of that information. I don't get this question very much from people. So be honest with you, I don't know a lot about it. But you send me some requirements to enter it, and you send me some requirements to get through that training, I might be able to help you better. Trying to gain 10 pounds. Should I tone down to do a couple of runs or swims a week? I found that difficult to gain weight even while working out in the evenings and having morning swims and runs. Well, here's the deal. You can still gain weight and run and swim a lot, but just know when you run and swim, you're probably going to burn, I don't know how long you're doing it for, 500, maybe 1,000 calories. You need to replace that with 500 to 1,000 more calories just to maintain your weight. Then when you go work out in the evening, you'll probably burn 500, 600 calories maybe if you're just lifting. And you need to replace that with more food. So already right there, you've got 1,500 to 2,000 calories just to maintain your weight. Now, if you want to gain weight, here's the trick. Just living, you're going to burn about 1,800 to 2,000 calories. So already 4,000 calories a day is 3,500 to 4,000 calories a day is what you need to just maintain your body weight and not lose weight. That's a lot. It's not impossible to eat that much food, but to gain weight, you got to add another 500 pounds or 500 calories to each day if you want to gain 1 pound a week. So now you're talking about, 4,000 calories a day. And I'm just guessing, but that's the kind of math you need to understand about your daily energy expenditure and how much energy you burn just living, your basal metabolic rate, and how much energy you burn working out. That's a number to maintain your body weight. If you want to gain weight, got to add another 500 calories each day, 7 days a week. At the end of that week, hopefully you got yourself a pound. But it's going to be, hit or miss some weeks. Does that make sense? If you want to be big, got to eat big. It's that simple. Can you do less running? Sure. Burn less calories. Might not have to eat as much. Still need to eat big. All right, let's see. Looks like I got those questions. I got a couple more questions, and then I got to go. What's a good treading progression from beginner to more advanced? Treading mobility is already a large focus, working on the egg beater, but not proficient. Great question. So here's what we do. We have people who fail tread tests, can't hold their hands out of the water for over a minute, can't build up to 5 minutes, it seems like. Looking at their egg beater, it's a mobility issue. So here's what we do. We get them treading for a couple of minutes with hands, without hands, trying to keep their hands out of the water most of the time. They take a break. They come over to the side of the pool, do the mats. We have mats set out there. and they do the egg beater stretch. They work their hips, knees, ankles, try to loosen things up for about 5 minutes and then get back in. So it is literally 2 to 3 minutes of treading, 2 to 5 minutes of stretching, back and forth. That's the way we do it. And then once you kind of master it and you got a little bit more mobility, and I will say it's going to take you about a month to build some mobility. So, and you got to do it pretty consistently. Whether you're swimming or not, you got to practice those stretches if you really want to build some mobility. Then your hips, knees, and ankles are producing more power at a greater range of motion in that egg beater or scissor kick or whatever you're using. Next thing you know, you're passing the treading test. Now, how do you maintain that? Here's what we do. We usually, every swim workout we do, our warm up or our cool down is a 5 to 10 minute swim. I'm sorry, 5 to 10 minute tread. Now, here's where we kind of make changes to that. If you're really bad at swimming, but you're okay at treading, your 5 to 10 minute warm up is going to be a swim. And how far do you get? In fact, usually we just do a 500-yard swim. That's your warm up for the rest of the workout. We also do a 5 to 10 minute tread. If your swim's solid, but you need to work on your treading, we work on treading as part of the warm up. Now, here's the flip side. If you're not good at both, we do both as a warm up front and as a cool down at the end of the workout. So we'll do a 5 to 10 minute tread as a warm up. We'll do a 500-yard swim as the final section of the workout, or we'll flip those 500-yard swim to warm up, 5-10 minute tread to cool down. So that's how we do it. It's part of our training every day is how you get good at it. And where people blow it off and they wonder why they're drowning when they start treading for 5 minutes and no hands, it's because they didn't practice. Let's see. Stu, I've seen increased in my pull-ups from 10 to 15, push-ups 60 to 80. Nice. But can't seem to get past 45 to 50 sit-ups. Any advice? Yeah. Pace yourself. I think where a lot of people screw up on sit-ups is they just don't pace themselves. They are just cranking out 30 sit-ups in 30 seconds, right? So instead of doing that, drop it down to 20 in 20 seconds, exert on the up, and just let yourself fall back. Don't waste any energy coming down slow and up slow. Don't do that. Just come up fast, relax your abs, and just fall. And then exert on the up. Boom, boom, boom. You'll be able to maintain your pace a little bit longer, and you get on a pace of 20 every 30 seconds. That's what I want you to do now. Start doing 30-second sets of sit-ups and shoot for 20. Master that pace. Next thing you know, you're doing 40 in a minute, 60 in a minute and a half. And you got another half minute to break your record and shoot for 80. It can be done, but it is a pacing exercise. That's where I would go with that. All right, looks like we got 2 more questions and I got to bail. Born and served 21 in the service right now. Been in 3 years, looking to go to Buds. I weigh 155 currently on week 1 of your phase 1 plan. Got a question. Hope you could be answered. Well, you should have asked it. Okay, but thanks for the details. All right. I see you ask it here. So for me, I have a gym in the house, but have to drive 15 minutes to a pool. As you could guess, that creates long breaks in between the workouts currently down the line. That's not a problem. Who cares? You know, we do 2 workouts a day. Our morning is all land based and our afternoons is all swimming. Just because that's the way our pool schedule works out. We just can't swim in the morning, so we swim in the afternoons at a different time. You know, you do what you got to do. We'll also sometimes we'll show up early before the pool and just run. You know, 15 minutes, I'm not sure how far your pool is, but a 15-minute bike ride or a 15-minute run to the pool, never a bad idea. Run to the pool, swim, run back. Great workout. It also depends. Sometimes a 15-minute drive's a 5-mile run, which could be done, or sometimes it's a 15-mile event, depending on how rural it is. So, get creative with that. I used to ride my bike about 15 miles to get to a river in the summer, and that riverbed was dried up, but it was my only source of soft sand that I could use, and it was like a mile long of soft sand on this riverbed that was all dried up over the summer. So I would do that, run in soft sand, and I'd get back on my bike and ride my bike back to town and stop off at the pool on the way back. So, get creative with it. Sometimes your situation makes for a great workout if you get creative with it. But send me some details of like the logistics. I might be able to help you create some of those ideas for you. All right, guys. That's it for me. I'm afraid I do need to go. I appreciate your time. If I missed your question, I apologize. I didn't see it. You can email me, stu@stewsmith.com. Happy to answer that online with email. But go check out stewsmithfitness.com and use the Live15 coupon code. Save 15% on these programs I've been flashing throughout the live video today. It's my version of live shopping. Go over there, buy something. All right. We will see you next week. You guys have a good one. Until next time.